Our love was a secret, a whisper between life and death, something the world was never meant to know. For years, I carried it like a wound that refused to heal, a beautiful ache that lived only in the silence between my heartbeats. But in the old hospital, abandoned and rotting at the edge of town, I found something that shattered even that fragile peace. A darker secret, buried beneath dust and decades of silence. It was a diary, handwritten proof bound in worn leather, its pages yellowed and brittle with age. And within those pages, the truth screamed louder than any ghost ever could. My Daniel didn't die by accident. He was murdered. The words were there, meticulous and trembling, written in his own hand during his final days. He knew someone wanted him dead, and he documented it, all the threats, the fear, the name he couldn't bring himself to say out loud but etched into the margins like a prayer for justice. And now, after all these years of mourning a tragedy I thought was fate, the killer knows. Someone saw me leave the hospital that night, clutching the diary to my chest like a lifeline. Someone knows I hold the truth in my hands. The ink bled on the page with the word murderer, as if he himself had wept while writing it. The letters were smudged, desperate, angry, a final accusation from beyond the grave. I traced them with my fingertips and felt his presence, cold and urgent, begging me to do what he couldn't, speak. But what do you do when the only person you love is also the evidence of a crime that, by exposing it, could cost you your life? What choice do you make when justice demands sacrifice and silence promises survival? Do you hide the truth to protect yourself, bury it again in some forgotten corner where the past can't reach you? Or do you reveal what happened and risk your future, risk everything for a love that no longer breathes, for a man who exists now only in memory and ink? The diary weighed in my hands, not as paper, but as a sentence. His sentence. Ours. And somewhere in the shadows, the killer was waiting to see which one I would choose. Years of ghost love had turned into a need for justice, and that search led me back to the old hospital where Daniel had died in 1958. The psychiatry wing, sealed since the 60s, was the only place to start, and every step on the broken tile floor echoed like a drum in the silence. The air there was cold and thick even in midsummer, and I could swear the shadows moved. I felt his presence, Daniel's presence, stronger than ever, but it wasn't the familiar melancholy. It was an electrical tension, a warning. I found the object not on a desk, but hidden, behind a loose fragment of wallpaper, in a wall cavity that had been a patient's room. I saw the edge of the notebook. It was wrapped in a rancid cloth, a small, dirty diary. It wasn't Daniel's handwriting. It was another man's, an on-duty doctor. I opened the diary, trembling. The page I was looking for didn't describe an illness, but a crime. In faded, yet undoubtedly clear ink, the doctor had written, "It wasn't suicide. I know it. Daniel was poisoned with strychnine. His family allowed it. And I, out of fear, kept silent." The words burned my eyes. Right then, the hallway's emergency lights began to flicker wildly, a silent alarm, and I heard his voice, a desperate, cut-off whisper carried by cold wind from nowhere. "On it, no. Leave it." He was shouting at me for the first time. He was shouting at me. Adrenaline kept me awake, fueling an obsession that replaced fear. The diary, written by Dr. Soria, was filled with medical codes and abbreviations I had to decipher night after night. My life narrowed down to a flashlight beam on those yellowed pages, searching for the killer's identity. 3 names stood out in the most cryptic passages: the envious doctor, who benefited from Daniel's death, a jealous nurse, described with an unsettling devotion to the patient, and more vaguely, the hospital management, which seemed to cover everything up. I made the first fatal mistake out of exhaustion. I left the diary open on the coffee table while I went out for coffee, thinking it would be safe in my apartment. It wasn't safe. When I returned, the window was ajar despite being locked, and there was a trail of mud on the carpet, mud that could only be found in the hospital's abandoned gardens. The killer, alive or in spirit, had visited me. They knew I had the diary. That night, the attack escalated. I was in the kitchen when the refrigerator flew open and all the porcelain plates crashed to the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces. The hallway door slammed shut with such force that the wall shook. I huddled against the bedroom door, feeling a dark, cold figure stalking me in the blackness of the hallway, just like the shadows that haunted me at the hospital, but this time it was personal. Amidst the terror, I clung to the diary, to the last fragment I was missing. With trembling hands, I deciphered a note scribbled beneath a medical diagram. Did it. Nurse Flores. Jealousy. The love he denied. Management knows and threatens me. It wasn't the envious doctor or the management. The killer was Estela Flores, a woman who had killed Daniel for rejecting her love. And, worse yet, according to the diary, she was alive and the management had protected her. Armed with the truth written in the diary, my search ended in the same hospital, in the abandoned office of Nurse Flores, now a frail, old woman, but with the same malice in her eyes. I confronted her. She didn't deny it, she only smiled scornfully. I loved him so much I preferred he be mine in death, she hissed. I held the diary like a shield, screaming the truth, Dr. Soria's words, exposing her crime from 1958. It was at that instant that the air froze. Estela Flores's spirit, freed by the confession or perhaps by the exposure, materialized, a furious specter, directly between us. She wasn't afraid of me. She wanted the diary and she wanted my life. I felt her phantom hands around my throat, and the living old woman laughed as her spectral version tried to choke me. Then, Daniel appeared. Not the melancholic, whispering lover, but a pure, radiant force. He launched himself against Flores's murderous spirit, a battle of spectral wills. I understood his sacrifice instantly. The only way to neutralize that evil was to consume it, to join the light and take the darkness with him. His eyes, filled with an agonizing love, looked at me one last time. "Be happy, Anna." His voice was thunder and a farewell. The impact was physical. The old Nurse Flores fell to the floor, inert, and Daniel's spirit vanished in a flash of white light that took Estela's shadow with it. The police found Flores and the diary was the evidence that convicted her, but I was left alone in the room, with the most deafening silence I had ever known. I found out who killed Daniel, a name blurred by time, Estela Flores. I brought justice and peace to his soul. And in return, I lost my only love. The hospital is now silent. The sirens are gone. I am still alive, but a part of me stayed with him in 1958.